Good afternoon, members of the board and shareholders. My name is Andre Miggins and I am here today to present to you my leadership analysis of Nintendo. Our agenda for today will cover the history and leadership of the company, then I'll talk about the current challenge the company is facing, followed by my recommendations on how to address each of them. Lastly, I'll open the floor for any questions you might have. Let's begin with the history and leadership of Nintendo. As most of you know, Nintendo was founded on September 23, 1889 by Mr. Yamauchi. And to give some perspective to our younger members, that was the year they finalized the construction of the Eiffel Tower. Nintendo was a playing cards manufacturer at the time. They made traditional Japanese cards called Hanafuda. The business stayed in the family, and in 1949 it passed on to the founder's grandson, Hiroshi Yamauchi. He was known for being a very strict man, and even though he didn't make use of any of the company's products, he had a nearly infallible talent for spotting what product would be successful and which wouldn't. That proved advantageous for Nintendo as he wanted to expand the business. They started by making toys. Then, as entertainment became more technological, they started making arcades such as Donkey Kong. From there, Mr. Yamauchi saw the potential for the company to have a dedicated home console, and in 1985 they released the Nintendo Entertainment System. But just hardware is enough in the video game industry, as games are the drivers of sales. Fortunately, Nintendo already had many capable developers working for them. One of them is Shigeru Miyamoto. He is the creator of Mario, The Legend of Zelda, and many other series that are part of Nintendo's vast portfolio of intellectual properties. Eiji Aonuma has been working on the Legend of Zelda series since the late 1990s and has been responsible for some of the best-selling and best-reviewed games Nintendo has ever produced. Koji Kondo is the composer of most songs and sound effects that have marked our childhoods, such as Satoru Iwata was a founder of HAL Laboratories, a video game developer that later became a part of Nintendo. He made use of his outstanding programming skill over the years to help not only HAL games being developed, but also others such as Pokemon and Smash Bros. That, combined with his sense of duty and leadership skills, led him to be chosen by Mr. Yamauchi as the new CEO of Nintendo in 2002. One of his most famous quotes is, "On my business card, I'm a corporate president. In my mind, I'm a game developer, but in my heart, I am a gamer." Under his leadership, Nintendo released two revolutionary products, the Nintendo DS in 2004, which had two screens, one of them being a touchscreen, and that was 3 years before the first iPhone came out. Then, in 2006, they released the Wii, the first console with motion controls, and that too was extremely successful. Mr. Iwata was not a conventional CEO, as he also liked being directly involved with the public as much as possible. The best example of this was Nintendo Direct programs. They released every 2 or 3 months to update fans on what games were to come, and as you can see, Mr. Iwata was a center figure in them. He also showed his unconventional sense of humor on several occasions and gave fans many good laughs. He also had a compassionate side, and when in 2012 the company suffered losses for the first time in 3 decades, he was advised to lay off some employees to reduce costs. Instead of doing that, he voluntarily reduced his own salary by 50%, and that inspired others to reduce their own salaries by 30%. That way, no one lost their jobs, and the company has recovered since. Let's move on to the challenges Nintendo is currently facing. The first one is that Nintendo has been slow to allow younger developers to create new games. The only recent example of this done right is Splatoon, which was the first new intellectual property developed by Nintendo in almost 10 years. It was a project led by younger developers and released in 2014 with critical success. It has become one of the best-selling games on the system, with almost 5 million copies sold. The second one is that Nintendo needs to pass the torch to younger generation on other series as well. A recent example of this done right is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It had a younger director and developers all around, with Mr. Aonuma simply acting as a producer. This breath of fresh air resulted in the fast-selling game in the franchise, and it broke the record for the most perfect scores in video game history. With that, we are left with the largest leadership challenge Nintendo faces right now, the one that really hit them by surprise. On July 11, 2015, Mr. Iwata passed away due to complications of a bile duct tumor. Nintendo held 2 days of funeral services for Mr. Iwata according to Japanese custom. More than 2,600 people attended the first day, and another 1,500 people came on the second day. As it rained during the 2 days of service, Yuji Naka, the creator of Sonic, said, that even the sky in Kyoto was crying. The response to Mr. Iwata's death was felt all over the world, with people in and outside the industry, along with fans paying their respects. So Nintendo had to face the challenge of finding a new CEO. The answer was Tatsumi Kimishima, a former banker and veteran in operations at Nintendo. He took the position in September that year at 65 years of age. He has the task of leading the company at a time of transition of hardware and has stated that he does not intend to be the CEO for too long, and that someone younger should take over when they're ready. With that, let's move on to my recommendations. The first one is to let younger developers work on new intellectual properties more often. One such example of this done right is ARMS, that comes out this year, but that's still a 3-year gap from the release of Splatoon, so that can certainly be improved. Similarly to what happened to Zelda, other older intellectual properties should have development helped by younger developers. One such series that would benefit from it, for example, is Super Mario. Now, you might be questioning what the more experienced developers should do then. They should explore new frontiers and expand Nintendo's business opportunities. For example, allow them to focus more on the partnership with Universal Studios and other projects that will expand Nintendo's reach of properties worldwide. As for the CEO position, Mr. Yoshiaki Koizumi is currently the top choice to be groomed to become CEO. He's been with the company since 1991 and has become the face of Nintendo after Mr. Iwata's passing. He also worked as general producer for the Nintendo Switch, which is Nintendo's new home console. He hosted the unveil of the Nintendo Switch in January and has his own style and sense of humor while being true to the Nintendo way. As for the time frame for him to become the CEO, it should be a process that would start soon with your acceptance and his, but it should develop gradually and he would officially take the position in 3 to 5 years. As Mr. Miyamoto famously said, a delayed game is eventually good, a bad game is bad forever. So if Nintendo feels that Mr. Koizumi is not ready in 5 years, he should continue learning until he's ready. The company has the leadership potential to increase their worldwide reach, and the suggestions proposed here will help Nintendo do just that. And now, I'd like to open for any questions you might have.